House Speaker McCarthy says Chinese regime most favored nation trade status should be revoked. WHO says Chinese regime has information about COVID's origin, pressed to share data. Xi Jinping said he would call Zelenskiy when conditions permit. Macron gets criticized for a tweet in Chinese praising French-China relations. Human Rights Watch, Tennis-WTA must stand firm on China and Peng Shuai.
Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy said the Chinese regime should lose most favored nation status amid ongoing tension between the two countries. In an interview on Fox News with host Ingram on Wednesday, April 5th, McCarthy stated that the Chinese regime's most favored nation trade status should be revoked, and the House would move to do so. Answering host Laura Ingram's question about why China should continue to enjoy the most favored nation status in trade with the U.S., McCarthy responded, "They should not. We've watched what the past administration, President Trump, had been able to accomplish with China, standing up to China." McCarthy revealed that the House is taking action to make legislation regarding to the issue, saying, "Let our committees take the action to move forward and do just that. That's what we're doing." The most favored nation status is a trading position in which a country receives the best trade terms from its trading partners. Once granted the status, a country will enjoy the lowest tariffs, fewer trade barriers, and the highest import quotas. Last month, U.S. Senator Josh Hawley proposed a bill to cancel normal trade with China. If the bill becomes law, all Chinese products exported to the U.S. may be subject to increased tariffs. The move could shake China's and U.S.'s economies and lead to a chain reaction in many other countries. This makes the Chinese Communist Party feel tremendous pressure during the post-pandemic economic downturn. The most favored nation status dates back to the 1980s. In that time, the U.S. government reviewed and approved certain benefits annually. By the mid-1990s, it was defined as permanent, and in 2000, it was transformed into a normal commercial relationship. The U.S. and China have gradually become trading partners. The Chinese government has reaped enormous economic and technological benefits from the U.S. By 2020, bilateral trade turnover between the two countries was nearly $560 billion. The World Health Organization chief said on Thursday, April 6, that he was sure that the Chinese regime had far more data about the origins of COVID-19, pressing Beijing to share all relevant information. Speaking about the virus's origins, WHO's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said without full access to the information that China has, you cannot say this or that. All hypotheses are on the table. That's WHO's position, and that's why we have been asking China to be cooperative on this. He added, if they would do that, then we will know what happened and how it started. The coronavirus was first detected in Wuhan in December 2019, and many experts suspected it might have come from a live animal market in the area. The virus has been spreading worldwide and has killed nearly 7 million people so far. CNN reported that the World Health Organization still does not have critical information from the Chinese regime about the origins of the COVID-19 outbreak, putting the world in danger. Maria Van Kerkhove, WHO's technical lead, said that the data collected in January and February 2020, more than 3 years ago, should have been shared with the world long ago. In an editorial in the journal Science on Thursday, Van Kerkhove wrote, "The lack of data disclosure is simply inexcusable. The longer it takes to understand the origins of the pandemic, the harder it becomes to answer the question and the more unsafe the world becomes." She noted that lack of shared information could fuel politicization of the virus's origin. She said the world needs to move away from the politics of blame and instead exploit all diplomatic and scientific approaches so that the global scientific community can do what it does best: collaborate, focus on this health crisis, and find evidence-based solutions to thwart future pandemics. Van Kerkhove called health experts and governments to act on the issue. We need scientists, public health professionals, and governments to share this information. This is not a game.
European Union chief Ursula von der Leyen said that the Chinese Communist Party's General Secretary Xi Jinping has agreed to speak with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskiy over the war between Russia and Ukraine. China's regime has long been accused of supporting the Putin government's invasion of Ukraine. There are suspicions that Beijing has supplied Russia with weapons to help Putin win the war with Ukraine. According to Reuters, von der Leyen said, "It was interesting to hear that President Xi reiterated his willingness to speak to Zelenskiy." She added that Xi also said that he would converse with Zelenskiy when the conditions and time are right. After meeting with von der Leyen and French President Macron on April 6th, Xi did not mention that he would call Zelenskiy. However, a French source told Reuters that Xi was ready to call Ukraine's president. The French source also said Macron had asked Xi not to supply Russia with weapons, and Xi replied that it was not his war. The source added that China was willing to work with France to reach an agreement to end the Russia-Ukraine war. So far, however, after over a year of conflict that has left thousands dead, there is little sign that Russia or Ukraine wants to negotiate. Xi's somewhat vague promise of a call with the Ukrainian president raises concern about whether China's regime wants Putin to withdraw troops from Ukraine.
French President Emmanuel Macron, who just ended his China trip, tweeted in Chinese, praising what he saw and heard during his visit to China and the relationship between the two countries. However, he has come under fire for his low-key stance on human rights in China and his praise of Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Macron, who arrived on April 5th, visited Beijing and Guangzhou, respectively. Xi Jinping also invited Macron to have afternoon tea in a former residence of his father, Xi Jiangsun, in Guangzhou. On April 7th, Macron sent 2 tweets in Chinese to express his joy. He wrote, "All the way from Beijing to Guangzhou, I have met French-speaking college students. These young people are full of enthusiasm and vision. I have also met innovative entrepreneurs and artists inspired by French art. Together we can do a lot. Long live the friendship between France and China." He tweeted again in the early morning of April 8th, "Thank you, Guangzhou. Long live the friendship between France and China." France and China just issued a joint statement on April 7th, stating that the two countries would continue cooperation in 5 areas: political dialogue, world security, economy, humanities, and global challenges. However, of note, among the 51 articles in this statement, only the last one involves human rights issues. The article shows that China and France emphasize the significance of promoting and protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms for the development of all nations in accordance with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. The lack of attention to human rights issues has led to criticism of Macron's praise of China. Uyghur lawyer Raihan Assad responded on Twitter, "Only if Emmanuel Macron has met young Uyghurs who are held in concentration camps for their desire to learn foreign languages, their own language, or visit Western nations. What's the scene like? It seems the friendship between China and France excludes the Uyghurs." Arriving in Beijing on April 5th, Macron said Europe must not decouple itself from China despite the risk and imbalances in its trade relations with Beijing. He said, "We have to somehow de-risk our industries, but we must not disassociate and separate ourselves." He has also come under fire due to these remarks. A Twitter user named Shashank Joshi wrote, "This is just embarrassing. The personal time Xi is devoting to the visit shows that France is not considered to be a country like any other." A clearly flattered Macron told reporters. Gideon Rachman, a chief foreign affairs commentator for the Financial Times, also tweeted, "Macron says the reception he's given in China shows that France is not just a country like any other." Xi expertly playing on Macron's vanity. This will end as badly as his Russia reset.
A senior China researcher at Human Rights Watch has pressed the Women's Tennis Association, WTA, to continue to hold its principles and boycott China unless Peng Shuai's case has been solved. According to Reuters' report on April 6, WTA did not hesitate to halt playing tournaments in China after former double world champion Peng officially said in a now-deleted post on Weibo in 2021 that Zhang Gaoli, a former vice premier and one of the highest-ranking figures in the Chinese Communist Party, had sexually assaulted her. Yashui Wang told the outlet in a Zoom interview from New York, "I have tremendous sympathy for the WTA because I know it's losing a lot of money, but I have to say it got so much praise for standing up for these values it believes in, contrary to a lot of the other businesses." The WTA said earlier this year that Peng was safe in Beijing but still wanted to have a private meeting with her. She added, "At the time it happened, I felt very inspired, and I really hope it, WTA, can stick to what it said. I understand it is a lot of money, but human rights are more important. Reuters noted that WTA has already made massive investments in China. In 2008, WTA established its Asia-Pacific headquarters in Beijing as part of its expansion plan in the Asia region. Also in the same year, WTA held its first 2 tournaments. In 2019, the last full year of its operation in China, the number of events grew to as many as 9, with $30.4 million worth of total prizes. Among them, WTA Finals, initially launched in Shenzhen, had a whopping $14 million on offer. However, the leading women's tour suffered a financial crisis due to the COVID pandemic in 2020 and 2021, resulting in losses of up to tens of millions of dollars. Wang said, "I still give credit to the WTA for saying what it said because all businesses expected the market to open, so it took a risk at that time." WTA said in a statement that it would continue to stick with its principles even though it hopes to resume its business in China. Wang disclosed that other tennis bodies would return to China this year, which would be a great opportunity to revive Peng's case. She said, when they have a presence in China, they must use every opportunity to raise Peng's case with Chinese officials in their communications and in meetings. When they have the camera, they must talk about Peng. Wang added, anybody in China who has been born and has grown up in a system knows the risks, and she did it, spoke out. It's a courageous act. I feel talking about her case to an extent keeps her safe. Therefore, WTA's decision was widely praised and supported as it dared to put human rights before its profits. Wang also warned, if it's reversed, the message really is the WTA eventually succumbed to business and to profit, and the WTA is no different to other businesses. I really wish for this not to happen.